It's like a
Nice hair, Shelton.
1970s.
Whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it because it is the best thing going.
And welcome back to the Boundary Corner podcast, along with my partners Brian Siegler, Brian Jonathan Talley, and Shelton Moss. I am Curtis Wilson. And as always, we are brought to you by Moments on the Maury. Looking for a weekend getaway in the state of Virginia? Check out Moments on the Maury. Might be exactly what you're looking for. Owned by a proud Hokie, located just outside Lexington, Virginia. All the fun stuff you can think of, fishing, kayaking, just relaxing by in on the river right out of your back door. Check out the links in the comment sections and the Instagram at Moments on the Maury.
And hit that QR code. The link's right there, baby.
Right up in the top corner. Check it out. Great spot. Booking fast, though. Talked to Phil the other day. He only had one more summertime weekend. He was talking to me and saying we should all come up and do one in the river, do a podcast in the river. Tally, can you make it?
In the river? Like
Like in the river. Yeah, like set up
feet
a
in the
thing
water.
and get in the floats in the water.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm down. I'm down.
Can you make it, Tally, in the summer? I know Shelton, it might be
Cool
tougher,
with
but
that.
it's Lexington.
I'm cool
Hey,
with that.
I'm always down for a Lexington trip. You guys know that. So
No, Tally, we have a long ways to bring you up, though, because you drove all the way to Tech before, and Lexington's another hour and 10 minutes plus north, and it's deep in the woods. So
The face says it all. The face says, nah.
we'll see. We'll see what we can do here. But what has been up? We were supposed to punch it last Wednesday. As y'all can hear, I am much improved, but I was losing my voice last Wednesday. I wasn't feeling good. Some things came up with one of Tally's friends. He had to go run and be a great friend to another friend. But what's been up, everybody, this beginning of summer?
Man, I just got back from the Smokies, baby.
You got back from Gatlinburg.
Yes, sir. Had a nice long weekend down in Gatlinburg. Did a little hiking. Hit up Dollywood.
Eat a lot of pancakes.
I had one morning of pancakes. That's all I could do.
Pancakes are everywhere. Yeah.
Hey man, you can't you can't do pancakes and then go hiking though, because anybody that ate pancakes
Oh, no.
know what's going to happen in about an hour or 2 hours.
Not great, Bob. Not great, Bob. Tally, you have been from the scenes of your social media. A lot of baseball for you in the last month.
So hot. It's so hot. Everywhere you go, it's hot. They want it. They want to rain. It wants to rain, and then it wants to be hot. So it's not only hot balls, it's steaming hot balls.
Steaming hot balls.
These eyeballs.
They just
Where-
stick
where-
to your
It's
leg.
pretty rough.
Yeah. Where have y'all played this summer so far?
So we Memphis. We have a tournament in Memphis. We've been in Hoover a lot. We actually have a 100 and 72 team tournament in Hoover this weekend. And then we were in Lake Point, which is close to Georgia. It's Emerson, Georgia, so close to Atlanta, Georgia. So we kind of be all over, but Hoover's a big one. People come from all over to go to Hoover to play. They have the Hoover Met, which is a sportplex place there. And you just kind of play all over the city. We got to play at the University of Alabama in Birmingham, so UAB. Then a lot of different, local high schools and things like that we have to play at. But the city of Hoover makes a lot of money on baseball.
Is that the week after the?
No, we go this week, so it's the 27th. Yeah.
Nice.
Luckily we don't have. Yeah, luckily we don't do anything the week of the 4th of July.
Good deal. Good deal. Shelton, what about you, man? I know you got some stuff coming up at the end of next month, but what has the summer been for you? You're like in, I'm assuming, chill mode, right?
I'm absolutely in chill mode, man. I've just been coming to the office, doing next to nothing, putting up some Tony Snell days at work. I don't know how many people are going to get that reference, but yeah, it's been good. I've been chilling. I've been in Richmond the past couple weekends, seeing my family. I had my sister's 30th birthday last weekend, and then went up to a Nats game in DC as well. So that was fun. So I've been chilling. I'll be going out to Idaho at the end of July, going on a big Pacific Northwest hiking and camping excursion, which I'm really looking forward to. So going to be good to kind of get out for a little bit and get out in nature for 10 days. And then I will come back and right after that, it's kind of, getting prepped for football season. So, I mean, I feel like it's right around the corner. I think like 75 days till kickoff. So I'm just excited about that,
baby. Yeah, it's getting here quick, man. It's it's been a quiet summer for us as we've been rolling into this. I'm glad that we're all getting together, and we got some big topics. We had some plans to talk about some other stuff last week, but it's probably good that we delayed it a week because we got a big announcement, man.
Huge announcement.
Well, I'm just telling Curtis, I'm here for one thing and one thing only. What? I'm here for Shelton Leviticus Moss to tell me why the AD is a good hire or a bad hire. That's the only reason I'm here. I don't got nothing to say on it because I don't know nothing, but I'm sure Shelton is going to make me feel really good or really bad. So that's all I'm going to say to get it started.
That's how he says to get it.
Of all the biblical texts you could have chosen, I'm intrigued by that one.
Pretty good name, right?
Could have been Ezekiel. Could have been Jeremiah. Ezekiel.
Could have thrown a Lazarus in there,
Leviticus.
Leviticus. Don't worry. In 10 minutes, it's going to be something different depending on what you say about this ADI.
All right. Well, if you have not heard, Hokie Nation, if you just woke up and this is the first thing you turned on and you stayed off socials, maybe you did the Shelton journey around Idaho in Oregon and you just hiked for 10 days and you walked back in and you turned on and the first thing you saw was our podcast and you said, what's going on with Tech and Tech football? Well, maybe not Tech football, but Tech's athletics in general. Announced yesterday, and you want to talk about keeping it tight because literally it leaked in an hour and a half later. It was boom, he's hired. They kept this thing tight, and that is that Brian White, who was the former athletic director of FAU, is now the Virginia Tech athletic director. Obviously, everybody's probably been combing over trying to find out everything you could about him. Also, unusual hire with really Tim Sands with 1 foot out of the door. But as we've kind of been saying, and Brian, me and you talked about it, and I think we all agree on this. This was the James Franklin hire. I don't give a damn what anybody said. Well, he did all this elsewhere. If James Franklin said, no, he's not going to be our AD, he wasn't going to be our AD. So Shelton is intently watching the Nats game. So, Brian, I'm going to start with you because I know it's top of the ninth in that game. I'm going to let Shelton finish it out. But, Brian, just from what you have read, your quick background, you were driving in a car yesterday when it was announced. So
Yeah, I got the announcement on my phone. Mid drive back. Did a little research when I got back home last night. I like the hire, man. I think it's when you talk about boxes to be checked, I think this one checked most of the boxes that we were looking for. Somebody that's had success as an AD, has had good success with hires, has navigated a move to a new conference. These are the things that could potentially be on the horizon for the Hokies. We've got this realignment talk. You got all this stuff with, is there going to be some sort of congressional ruling coming down? Is there going to be this Super League if the SEC and the Big Ten decide to go their own way? Like, there's a whole lot of things to navigate. Somebody that's at least had some experience doing stuff like that, even if it's not at the P4 level, I think is something that you can kind of put a feather in your cap about and be happy about at this point. The only thing that you could really point to is that he hasn't been an AD at a P4 school. I mean, that's really the only knock on the resume, in my opinion. I think everything else is a slam dunk, especially when you look at, the lineage of what others in his family have done. I think it's just, there's not a whole lot to complain about. And as you said, definitely James Franklin's fingerprints all over this one.
all right, Sheldon. So Tally can explode one way or the other. Just your research background on what you've seen with Brian White's resume.
Yeah, so I guess I'll give you the quick overview. To start off, he certainly has lots of fundraising experience. I know he did some good things at FAU. Looking at his bio, they talked about how they had record highs in fundraising, corporate sponsorships, attendance, and some of that is kind of just your typical, school PR fluff. But real big increase in philanthropic giving over the past few years. They got a new strength and conditioning space, partnership with Play Five Sports, and doubled the school's sponsorship revenue. So some good stuff from that standpoint. I did take a quick look at their finances. This is not a particularly well-funded program or athletic department. 2022, they had about $39 million in total revenue, which was second to last in the American Athletic Conference and one of the last in the FBS schools. In 2024, that did not change much. They were still second to last in revenue, but I don't know if that accounted for the FAU's Final Four run, which obviously coincided with lots of increased support for the program. So maybe take that with a grain of salt. But overall, they're middle of the pack in football spending, and obviously football did not go particularly well for them. Had some rough hires. I do not believe they had a winning season since. All the coaches he hired, I don't think they've had a winning season since Kiffin won 11 games a few years ago before leading. So from that standpoint, not great. Now they did grow their revenue quite a bit, 32% since 2021, which that's adjusted for inflation, which is pretty good relative to the schools in their conference. So looking at that, I'd say he's got some good fundraising chops. I would think personally that this was a hire made more based on the ability to raise funds, not quite as much the coaching aspect or the traditional AD duties. Not that doesn't matter, but I think at this juncture in time for Tech, especially with all the issues we talked about with WIT and the Hokie Club and fundraising, I think that was probably a big priority for them. I do want to touch very briefly on Olympic sports. He actually did not hire a ton of coaches in Olympic sports. The big ones were softball and beach volleyball. Both of those did pretty well. They've got a very good softball program down there in FAU. Women's basketball, not quite as good. They underperformed. Their coach got let go after 4 years. So not great there, but he just doesn't have a huge sample size to work with. So overall, football, results-wise, has not been good, but I do think he does have some value when it comes to fundraising and just, growing revenues. So from that standpoint, if you want to look at it positive, I think certainly can.
Okay, Tally.
I mean, I heard some good stuff. Not overwhelming, but heard some good stuff. I did see the stuff that I looked up. It said in 24 and 25, FAU had the most attendance of school history in home games. So, I mean, that's good. They're finding a way to get people to come to the games, whether that's lowering tickets or putting a good program, put product out. You know, I mean, you can put a good product out even though you're losing, but you want to win, of course. So, I know he's probably doing a good job of, like Sheldon said, fundraising. When you look through things like that, his family is big into sports, and you know, maybe we can get a home and home against Tennessee. I mean, that would be great for me.
Battle of Bristol
his
Part
brother's
2.
the AD at Tennessee. I'll take that. And Robbie, no, he did. Yeah, no, Robbie, he did not hire Lane Kiffin. That was before him.
That was a season before he became the AD there. Yeah. Again, Shelton got deep into it, looking at the fundraising stuff. And like I said, and I'll say it again, this is a James Franklin hire. This is who he wants in there. Because the honest to God truth is he's not going to be doing much inside the football program as far as hands-on. So clearly he is doing what he wants him to do, which is going to be go make more money. Go make more money. And of all the sports, his best hire was Dusty May. Not even a shadow of a doubt that was his best hire. The Final Four run, and obviously, you know, with May going to Michigan, winning the championship, and now moving along to the NBA. So, and again, some of that to me is luck. Some of it's understanding where the guys come from. But that was Dusty May's first head coaching job was FAU, and it was his first significant hire because he was hired in 2018 after Brian White had been named AD. Shelton mentioned it before we jumped on. Tally just mentioned it there. Brother is Danny White over at Tennessee. Obviously, I think, Shelton, your quote, the best athletic director in all of college sports right now is Danny White. And his dad was, you know, solid too. Dad, Kevin White, was the AD down at Duke up until 2021. I don't know his exact timeline, but obviously he probably is somewhere in the Cutcliffe era. So it's all the whole wait and see. But Shelton, you made a great point there, and you're not the only one I've heard it from. I've heard it from a lot of people talking about the dysfunction of Hokie Club, the dysfunction of fundraising at Virginia Tech during Witt's time. I can remember before Witt, Hokie Club used to be really strong in Richmond. Brian, me and you went one time. I went with Phil one time to recruiting events. Used to be a recruiting event every year in Richmond. A coach would come down. You'd have 250, 300 people right over at Dominion, right off 64, back on one of their rooms. So, you know, you kind of sit here and wonder, or you sit here and see how bad that was mismanaged, is that's the first thing that James Franklin wants done, because the only way you're going to keep the train going, because if James Franklin goes out and wins, that's great, but you've got to have someone going out there smoozing, glad handing, shaking hands, kissing babies, saying, did you like us winning 11 games last year? Great. Stroke a check, because that's the only way we're going to keep it going. So, yeah.
It's true, man. And I think, you know, when you look at that's the side that I don't think Witt was great at. That's the side historically that, you know, Virginia Tech, whether good or ill on the field, you know, we've struggled of running a quote unquote modern program, from a marketing side, from a just financial side overall in terms of getting money in the door. And I think this is somebody that certainly excels on that front. You know, to Sheldon's point, the football hires haven't been great. That could be a product of just FAU in the American. It could be a product of, I mean, when you look at the Willie Taggart hire, I mean, that's only that's only a bad hire in hindsight. I think everybody thought that was a pretty good hire at the time. So not everybody is Lane Kiffin. So it's kind of hard to follow that act and keep that train rolling there. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but I think this is certainly, from a modernization of the program standpoint, a big step forward.
All right. So obviously that will be coming to more fruition in the next few months. You'll see the roles. We'll see probably his plan as he lays it out. And again, it's one step off the box, and it's before July. I am a little shocked by this. I know a lot of people's heard and said the AD is probably going to come first before the president. And it just shows you right now, the influence of the BOV. Like this is a big nut board. They throw them on the table. You have people that give a shit about sports. They're gonna make these moves. They don't really care what the president says. But it also shows you how much influence James Franklin has. It shows you how much influence he is having on the program right now. So, anything else to add, boys, before we move on to actual talking about football?
That's all I got, man.
Yeah, just to reiterate what you said, James Franklin had his hands all over this hire. Again, I personally think that this is a hire, with fundraising in mind, because I just don't think the body of work when it comes to hiring coaches is all that great for Brian White. So I trust Franklin's judgment. Could I get burned by it a few years down the road? Maybe, but I think coaching wise, we're fine right now. We just need to worry about sustaining sources of income, and I think that's what their priority is.
All right, so let's roll on. Let's talk about actual football stuff on a couple different fronts here. Last week, actually, I think the day that we were supposed to go live, talk to some coaches coming out talking about injuries and updates and how summer's going. And, we've got everybody here. They're saying Jaquez White, the corner, looks like he's probably going to be healthy by camp. Good. Marlon Jackson, that wide receiver from La Tech, 100% right now. But there was two kind of I wanted to focus on here. The first one, and I'll start with Tally on this one. I want to start with Emmett Laws because right now, Price straight out said it. Since you're his recruiting coordinator, we need to talk to you about this, Tally. He straight up said it. First of all, if Emmett Laws is healthy, he's in the 2 deep. I think we expected that after some of the showcase he did last year. But right now, his situation's challenging. There is no timetable for his return. So, Tally, what's your feel on this just from, looking at the boards, trying to figure it out? Because he was expected to be one of those rotational guys this year.
Yeah, no, it's not a good time to be hurt. By no means. It's never a good time to be hurt, but just where Virginia Tech is, bringing new guys in, new coaches, things like that, it's a crappy time to be hurt. I hate that for Laws. Not saying that he's done. I'm just saying, having an injury that puts you behind while other guys are getting better is tough right now. So it'll be, kind of up in there to see who steps up and who does what over the summer to kind of get their footing, and also, how his injury progresses, because, I've tried to dig and find out exactly what's going on with him and what's happening, because, when they were giving, again, it's springtime, nobody really is giving out a whole bunch of information on injuries, but to say what they said doesn't sound like he's coming back anytime soon, right? So it's like, I don't know, how much time does he have to work when those other guys are getting better in that room, because you got to have a 2 deep going in the fall of who you trust to start the season. So I hope he can work and get back, but not looking too good right now from what I heard. Not saying I just heard so much behind the scenes, but from what the coaches are saying or what Price said, kind of doesn't look too great for Laws right now, but I'm hoping that young man works back, because that rap wasn't hitting for me.
Yeah. My take is, when you're looking at Laws, he's certainly somebody that I think that's a position where we feel okay about the depth, but we certainly want him in that rotation because I think he's a level up from whoever we're putting in behind him. And it's funny because you see some of these like team outing or position group outings and stuff on social media, and you're not seeing him in like a walking boot or anything like that. So it's even hard to speculate of what he's dealing with and what that timetable could look like, because there's nothing obvious out there. He doesn't have an arm in a sling. He's not wearing none of that stuff. So it's like one of those things where I'm sure there's a handful of people out there that know what he's dealing with, but until we get any sort of official word, all we can do is speculate. So hearing what Pry had to say about it, when it comes from Pry though, like saying something like that could mean he's back next week, or it could mean we won't see him till November. So I really
pretty much
don't
you're
know.
saying he a liar.
I'm saying he's going to say something, and it doesn't always mean the same thing this time that it meant the last time. Because, I mean, he said, I don't know when we're going to see him, and then he's playing the next week. And he said, I don't know when we're going to see him. And we didn't see him for the whole year. So
they went on a milk cart.
Yeah. So I
working
don't know,
through the little thing.
I don't know whether to take that with a grain of salt or whether to go ahead and chug it down and just pray for the best but hope for the worst, or prepare for the worst. Because it's been very inconsistent on that front from a messaging standpoint from Pry. So I don't know if that's what we're dealing with here, or if we're looking at something where he's kind of telling you exactly what he's thinking.
Yeah, I think it's I'm not going to say more painful for him at Laws, but we've seen just in the last 8 months, it's the talent level that's raising. Because if you had said, oh, he's not going to be able to play much this year, he's got to recover. Okay, well, there's really not many guys coming in that are going to really – it's going to be tough to take his spot. And it's not like that now. Obviously, with Copeland and Fall, that's your 1-2. But with guys like Randy Adrika coming in, guys like Eric Mensah coming in, the recruiting class, having some of those guys, and even some of the guys from this year that's already committed, saying, okay, now the groom's getting deeper. You've got young guys who are similar in his age, like Gerard Johnson. Is this year they take a step? Is it the year Andrew Hanchuk stays healthy? So it's like his window is right there right now. And if he can't play, and I hope this is not the case, I hope they were bullshitting us. Game 1, he's rotating in. He gets 26 snaps. He blows up a play on VMI. But if he's not, and it's what you said, Brian, he goes, and like I reiterated, he goes on the milk cart. He doesn't show up till November. He's probably not going to be here next year. That's just that's just facts. Because in all likelihood, the way we're recruiting right now and the way some of these other guys and where they came out, it's probably not going to be a spot open anymore. And I think that sucks, but it is what it is. Now, I'm going to go to the good news. Logan Howland, transfer out of Oklahoma left tackle, 100%. Justin Curtis Terry. You like that, Brian? You like that, Justin Curtis Terry?
Curtis Terry, baby.
Curtis Terry.
Curtis
baby.
Terry.
Justin Curtis Terry. Both, again, 100% going through everything. And something we did say at the end of spring, it's a little worrisome, we need those two guys to be healthy. We need those two guys to compete. And in all likelihood, it looks like they are going to go into fall camp 100%. How does that make you feel, Tally?
Good. You need all the big linemen with any experience that you can get. So whether they're going to start or somebody beats them out, you want that competition. You don't want somebody to be the de facto starter because somebody else is hurt. You brought all of them in to compete and play. So you want them to be out there competing and hopefully playing. So I'm good. I'm glad that they're healthy. I was a little worried about Howland just because of the injury that he had, but if they're saying he's healthy and he's able to move and stuff, that's great, because I think he had a labrum or a shoulder or something like that. And as a lineman, you got to use your hands. You got to be strong with your arms. Anything that's going to prohibit you from doing that sucks. So the fact that it's early summer and he's already, able to work is great because he's going to need that strength, trying to block off defensive ends from Miami.
100%. Brian?
I mean, offensive lineman is a need position. The more healthy bodies you have, the better. To Tally's point, you got one guy with a whole lot of experience coming from Oklahoma. You got Justin Curtis Terry, coming over as well. I think both of those guys are going to at least be, in the two deep. I think Howland could definitely be a starter. Terry could probably be a starter as well, depending on how things go in the fall. So getting them healthy heading into fall is very important. And it gives you a little bit more kind of downstream options. We saw that Garrett was working some at guard in the spring. If you've got Terry and Howland that can hold up the tackle positions, that gives you an option there. It gives you, at worst, a swing tackle that can come in if one of those guys gets nicked up that you feel pretty good about based on the number of snaps he's played. So nothing but good things when you get your two tackles that you brought in the transfer portal healthy and ready to go for fall camp.
Shelton, I know it's a lot going on the TV. Anything on this? Oh, no, we lost him.
He said, "I'm out of here."
Well, if you go,
He said,
just
"I'm
go
outta here."
look at
Curtis, I
He's
will
back.
tell you this, though. I will
Hit the
tell
wrong
you
tab.
this. I will tell you this, Curtis, before Shelton goes.
Yeah.
Justin Terry is 6'5", 360, and Logan Howland is 6'6", 325.
They're big. They're
Some big
really freaking big. Shelton, anything on either of the O linemen being healthy now?
Honestly, nothing really specific. I just think, you've got a lot of new guys in the room, a lot of youth. And like we talked about, I mean, Franklin's brought in some guys that are, younger but high upside with, multiple years of eligibility left. And I just think it's important to, just try to stay healthy and kind of get that continuity because it's a position where you need reps, you need practice reps and getting you guys healthy and getting, live reps training as a unit is super important. So, they're going to be a little bit down this summer, but I think it's just a position group where you have to, just kind of accept the fact that there's going to be a developmental process with, the guys I've got down and just with the youth on that side. So, I mean, that's all I really have to say. Like, I think we're a year away from really kind of getting the O-line to where we really want it to be. But we're just taking some baby steps this year. That's okay.
There you go. And with both of those guys, to Shelton's point, being into the year to go, both Howland and Terry both have eligibility still left after this year. So, that is a good thing. All right, let's flip over. Let's talk a little bit recruiting. And kind of the way we started last one, I'm going to start with the downside, and that was Chris Whitehead and his brother. We should go down to LC Bird and see what they're driving now. I'm assuming it's going to be really nice cars. Both of them commit to LSU basically within the same time frame. Obviously, if you are living under a rock, Chris Whitehead is the top player in Virginia. He is a top 30 player. He is one of the top edges, and he's a top everything. He's a stud. Tally, you texted some stuff in a few different chats. So I'm going to let you go, and because some people were pissed. They were like, man, fuck this. How'd we lose this? Tally, the voice of reason here.
I mean, Whitehead left us with the blue head. That's what happened. Blue balls. That's what we got. But honestly, it's like the fact that James Franklin is in on some of these recruiting battles is just because of him. The Virginia Tech brand has not done itself any favors to have a 4-5-star defensive end looking at your school. Like our brand has been in the mud, so I don't. It's not a moral victory just to be in those battles, but to really, really be in that battle, to really be, one of the last teams and still have a chance to flip some of these kids is just because James Franklin does a really, really good job of recruiting. But to go get those kids takes a lot of money nowadays, number one. But number two, the product has to match what the NIL stuff is as well, in my opinion. Because we haven't had any good publicity on the field for the most part in the recent years. So if I'm fighting against a Virginia Tech and I'm somewhere like LSU, of course I'm gonna say that. Like, we just had a kid come down here from Virginia Tech and we put him sixth in the draft. Why would you go to school there? That's what I would say. It was a kid that was already there. He realized he couldn't get what he needed. So he came here and got exactly what he needed: the exposure, competition, the facilities, and he went sixth in the draft. Shout out Mansour Delane. But again, I'm not saying that always happens, but I'm just saying in this year, at this point, that's probably some of the talks that was thrown at Whitehead. But if James goes out here and he puts together a good season and we mess around and win 9-10 games, not saying we are, but you mess around and win 9-10 games, then you can circle back and say certain things to certain players. And if you're winning games, of course, more money is going to be thrown at the program. You may have to throw more. I mean, we one guy away from getting into the playoffs, and you're that guy. So I don't know. It's not as bad as some people made it out. Oh, we got to get kids like that. No, we don't deserve really to get kids like that right now. We got to do some things to get some kids like that. We got lucky and got some of these ones that we got. So that's just my 2 cents. I'm not upset. I would have loved for him to commit to Virginia Tech. I hope we got a chance. I hope we go out and have a good season and have a chance to just keep recruiting them. But, we'll see. We never know. Brian, what you got?
Man, I'll tell you one thing. It speaks to how Franklin has reset expectations for the program already. The fact that there was people legit disappointed that we missed out on Chris Whitehead. That tells you that Franklin is getting us in so many of these conversations that a lot of the fan base now is almost expecting to win these battles that go that deep. And that's something that's a place we haven't been at in a very long time. So that's a positive takeaway that we can look at this. You don't like to, celebrate moral victories, but that's a victory of itself that we're in these conversations this deep into things. You get down to an LSU and a Virginia Tech. It sucks to miss out on the guy. That's definitely a difference maker. That could have been you point to that as like a difference making player in what Franklin is trying to do at Virginia Tech. But at the same time, I don't think it necessarily changes the narrative of where we're going. It just says we're not quite at the level where we can pull a 5-star just because he's from Virginia anytime we want to. And to Tally's point, we haven't earned that yet on the field. So I think some of that's going to come with wins.
100%. Sheldon, anything on losing Whitehead to LSU?
No, guys. I mean, this is recruiting. Like, you're going to lose battles. It happens. That's part of. We're not gonna recruit 500 4-stars to our roster every year. But I think I think it's a great sign that we're in these battles. And I do think also, to me, I think their most remarkable thing is that this would happen with or without NIL. Like, obviously, we got to be competitive in terms of the money, but I just think Franklin is that good of a recruiter that he can get us in these battles. Regardless, it's not like we're just throwing money at guys saying, "Hey, here's your salary, come play for us." Like Franklin is actually, like I said, pound for pound, one of the best recruiters in the country, and we got him. So I have no loss of confidence at all whatsoever that we will continue getting some dubs on the trail here going forward. But yeah, it's just you just chalk it up to the game and move on. It happens.
Yeah. Tally, you said something last week that resonated with me on this, and I'll stick with it. First of all, it was LSU. Even as crappy as they've been the last 3 seasons under Brian Kelly, 26-16, so 10 games above 500. And then they fire him and they go get Lane Kiffin, who is, for the better part of the half decade, probably been the hottest, if not in the top 5 head coaches. They also just rehired Ed Orgeron. Like, it ain't like you went out and lost to the Little Sisters of the Poor. You lost to an SEC school who have one hell of a head coach. And yes, if you hate him, I understand why. But he's that fucking good. And then they brought in an old ace in the hole in Ed Orgeron, who's always, as long as I followed recruiting, probably for 20 years, has always been a damn good recruiter. And he usually primarily coached defensive line. So you don't think they were in his ear. But the one thing I'll say, and we'll close this one out, let's talk about some good stuff. I don't think James Franklin is done recruiting Chris Whitehead. I think, Brian, you said it aloud to me on the phone the other day. There is money earmarked for Chris Whitehead. And maybe we do something stupid, Tally, and win 10 or 11 games and say, hey, the deal's still here, man. You ain't got to fly your parents to Baton Rouge every Saturday. They can drive across state or, heck, meet them down at Chesterfield Airport. Some of the big wigs will fly them in a little bit easier. As much as it sucked losing that, what happened between the last time that we talked and tonight has been nothing short of amazing recruiting-wise. I'm going to just go through the names. O-lineman Junior Saunders, wide receiver Cam Wade, tight end Sam Faneuil, Dylan Littell, offensive line, Austin Barnett, corner, Samaje Dozier, corner, Bryce Woods, corner, Tamarian Moreland, I guarantee I butchered that name, safety, Luke Branham, number 1 player, offensive line in West Virginia, and then the big one that just happened last week was the flipping of Notre Dame recruit Amari Irving, who is from IMG Academy. I need to do the research. I should have, but I didn't. I can't tell you last time we got an IMG guy, if we've ever got an IMG guy. That's 10 guys in the course of like 3 weeks that we got. And the worst of those is Branham, and he is the top player in his state. So just because Tally's on the delay, Tally's working with like a 7-second delay. Tally, of all these guys or just anything in general, anybody jump out to you, anybody you like the most before I'll flip it over to Brian after that?
I mean, yeah, everybody. But if I had to pick, maybe a couple, you look at, Julius Saunders, great pickup. We need offensive linemen. He's another one. You go, Tommy Wilder 1 year, then the next year you go Junior Saunders, which is, a top player in Virginia, and a top offensive lineman in the country. Like, yeah, I'll take that all day. But then also not so much just the tight end, but what is it, Sam Fennell? Because you have other tight ends, like you got a class of tight ends that's a really good tight end haul. You know what I'm saying? And then this is a Virginia kid who's a top recruit in Virginia as well. Could have easily been like, oh, y'all already got 2 tight ends. I'm done. I ain't coming. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, I want to come too. I want to come because all 3 of the tight ends that they got are, from what I've looked at, pretty legit. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
All of them coming in, great size, looking at the film, good film, great offers, very, very athletic. They're going out and getting tight ends that are in the mold of like Luke Reynolds and Tyler Warren, right? So a lot of times when you try to recruit tight ends like that, it's like their mindset is, how many touches do I get? You know what I'm saying? How many times am I going to get to catch the ball because I'm not just a blocking tight end? Well, you went out and got 3 of them in this class, and I think that's a damn good job. And I don't think any one of them is thinking, like, I'm going to just go up here and sit behind this guy. I think all of them are thinking I can go in here and play right from the beginning. So, hell of a job by the staff. I know you said one, but with those two kind of recruiting battles that I looked at.
Yeah, I mean, Tally made a great point. I mean, when you look at the tight ends, I think you talked about the touches, Tally, and I think when you go back and look at the spring game tape, that's all the selling you need to do if you're trying to say, hey, you want touches? This is the place to get touches if you're a tight end. That's all you got to point to. When I look at what we did though in that run, Junior Saunders, I mean that's a big one. I think the sleeper in that, and then when the big bump happened with the rankings, you saw it come through. Dylan Littell, I think, is going to be a big pull. He's probably got a little bit of weight to gain, but I think just looking at his skill set in the tape, he looks like a guy that, if he can put on the weight, I think he's going to be good to go. So that would be my pick. Obviously, I think the Irvin flip. I think Notre Dame's room got full and he was kind of the odd man out, but you could tell that we were still recruiting him very heavy up until that point, because as soon as that spot opened up, he just committed to Virginia Tech, man. He knew that's where he wanted to go if Notre Dame wasn't a call. So I'll take that kind of flip any day of the week. And it's a good get for that linebacker room that didn't have any commits at that point in time. So I think that's big as well. When you look at just kind of the way the class overall is shaping up, I thought that was a huge pickup. Curtis, you on mute, buddy.
Oh, Curtis.
Well, I was hocking up a little something here a few minutes ago. I thought y'all wouldn't want to hear that. But Shelton, anything on it? I know recruiting's not your biggest bag, but a run like this of 10, again, the lowest guy is the number one player in West Virginia, and he still comes in at the old 87. Lowest guy in the class is currently an 87.
Yeah, man. I mean, it speaks for itself. I guess the one thing that I'd be interested to see is like what's that dynamic between high school versus transfer? Because it seems like obviously Franklin's leaning big on high school recruiting, kind of like Pride did, but we're also in an era where we've seen lots of teams like Miami and Indiana kind of go the opposite route of going all in on transfers. I think Prize struck the right balance. Again, like we talked about, getting guys with multiple years of eligibility so that they kind of moonlight as your high school recruits, if you want to look at it that way. But if you can get the talent like this and pay him and keep up with the Joneses, like I still think that's a workable model in today's age. Like just because Indiana has success one way doesn't mean we have to copy them exactly. And I also do think that Virginia Tech is a school where it's a certain type of culture, certain type of vibe, and I think you can sell kids on development, high school development, coming here for 3-4 years. And doing it that way, versus being sort of a mercenary program like UVA is. And UVA, well, we don't have to get into them. They're struggling a little bit on the trails, so it's can leave that topic conversation for another day. But I'm just impressed with just the results from inheriting a 3-9 team, just how quickly it's turned everything around. So I think it's great. Nothing but positive things to say.
Yeah, you talk about someone that's all in on the transfer portal. UVA is definitely a team that is all in on the transfer portal, and I think some of that's just a byproduct of they are not doing very well on the high school trail, and have kind of earmarked a lot of their money on the transfer portal and are willing to dial it up and see what happens. Obviously, with the transfer portal, it's a high risk, high reward situation, whereas if you focus on high school, it's a little more steady Eddie. I think Franklin did a good job of, like Sheldon was alluding to, kind of with the transfer portal this year of getting guys with multiple years of eligibility. So you're kind of backfilling some of the high school recruiting you should have done 1 or 2 classes ago, while still raising the talent level of your roster through the portal. I don't think that Franklin's going to be as heavy in the portal going forward, but I think he's probably going to be a little more open to dipping his toes into the transfer portal than maybe he was at Penn State. But I think he's going to focus like he did at Penn State on that roster retention, more so than necessarily throwing a bunch of money at the portal.
Yeah, 100%. So just to answer this for Phil here, everybody here is a 27 guy, and that is December when it happens. The one thing that caught my eyes as I started looking at all these 10 guys is we continue to hear about like the footprint, the 6 hours, like try to get guys that you get to. You occasionally are going to need to crank up the plane and fly to Massachusetts to land Peter Board. You're occasionally going to need to crank up the plane and fly to Texas to go get a running back. And that's fine. But use your intelligence on the budget, because if you look right now on who we got, I mean, to me, it harkens me back to when I was a kid. And it's like 4 players from Maryland, 4 from Virginia, 3 from Georgia, 2 from Florida, 2 from New Jersey, 2 from South Carolina, 2 from Ohio, 1 from Alabama, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Texas, Tennessee, and West Virginia. You take out you take out Texas and Massachusetts, and you put like an 8-hour circle up. And I know Tally takes a little bit more time to get where this kid is in Alabama, but not much. You tell me we have 27 kids, and they are from those states, and they're ranking where they're ranking. Like Dylan Littell, top 10 player in the state of Ohio. That's unbelievable. That's shit we don't know we have never seen before. So I think that's great. To Brian's point, and to Tally's shock, thought we were going to have to call his wife and make sure he didn't pass out. We did get bumps from 2-4, and not like little bumps, like changing people's rankings, taking people from not even ranked to being basically top 150 players. Tally, and this is only for Tally, because Tally keeps up with us more than anybody. What'd you say? What is it? Why are we getting bumps now? They used to just, Peter Bork, if this was under Pry, Peter Bork would have went from the 80th player to like 180 in like 2 days.
Man, subscriptions. I mean, I get it. I've been trying to figure this out for years, and people argue, oh, y'all just say that because y'all are stupid and fans don't know anything. I'm like, maybe we are stupid. Fans are short for fanatics. So we may be crazy, but what it looks like to me is these recruiting databases probably have got a lot of influx of Virginia Tech fans in the last 6 months. A lot of people are tuning in, wanting to know what these crystal balls are, tuning in, wanting to see what's the next recruit look like. So I'm not going to say they just give them rankings or bump rankings because of that, but I am saying that they pay more attention to the kids that these coaches go after. So, and sometimes it just comes out to, I think, like the Dylan Latrell kid, I think they said that he plays multiple sports, so he hadn't camped a lot, So now we finally get to see him at a camp, and then, okay, well, he's better than this guy, and this guy's ranked this, and he's going against this guy, and he's ranked this. We got to look at giving him some kind of bump. Or you look at, like, Peter Bork that goes to the Elite 11, which is kind of the Taj Mahal of what the quarterback recruits do, and he does well. So you can't take him down. You know what I'm saying? For the most part. So I don't know, man. I was excited just because you want to see that ranking continue to go up. But at the same time, it's like I've seen in the past where it's went the other way, and I want to know what's different. I think it's James Franklin. I think it's James Franklin just working the systems, to be honest with you, because he's the belle of the ball. And people can say what they want to say, but when ACC Media Day comes around, everybody's gonna want to talk to James Franklin. Everybody's gonna want to talk to him.
There's gonna be more national media reporters there this year because of James Franklin.
It's not because of the program's doing so great. It's not because of we've incorporated so many new facilities since he's been here. It's because of him. They want to know what is up with James Franklin and what's his next move. So I'm excited. I hope things continue to trend in the right direction. Off season is looking good. It's great to have a good off season, but when it counts is during the season when it starts to get into these hot months and then the fall time. I think Sheldon said it. We got like 70 days to football. Like that's right around the corner. We'll be getting NCAA 27 next month in a week.
Lots of new upgrades.
Yeah, lots of new upgrades and
Lots of new upgrades
that takes a month of people's mind not off of football, but off of the start time. And then you start getting those countdown, Brian. Oh, we're gonna count down to the season. And the number 50 player, then we there. We ready to roll. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what games to go to this year.
There you go. All right, real quick, and I want everybody to just drop it real quick. Currently, we are sitting at 25 commits, and I know we got 5 months, 6 months before they're going to sign on the dotted line. How much bigger is this class, Jonathan Talley? We're at 25 now.
30.
Brian?
I think we get to 28.
Shelton?
No idea.
I'm gonna split the difference and say 29 because I did a little count here. There are effectively 37 guys who technically graduate this year. So that leaves some wiggle room to get to almost that 30 number.
6.
Ah!
Nice.
I need to know how much Phil had. I know he's.
Phil hit the bourbon before he signed on tonight.
I'm gonna probably see him either tomorrow or either Thursday or Friday. So we'll have a good talk. I'm like 29. Like split the difference between y'all two. But that still is going to leave room for like 10 or 12, maybe 13, 14 guys in the portal. All right. The other big thing, and again, it might be the James Franklin bump, was the Phil Steele all ACC preseason team. Where I love John Love. I love him, but he is a kicker. And Christian Eplin, he's a long snapper, and they're really good. So I'm going to take them off the table. But to have 7, like on the first 2 teams, was pretty impressive. Like, I don't know if that's Franklin or if that's on these guys, just how good they are. Like, to me, if you had said Kamari Copeland, Kayshawn Brown, and Luke Reynolds were it, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But Laith Ganam, Marcellus Hawkins, Elijah Fall, Caleb Spencer also on there. In any shock?
You could make a case. You could put Jeff Overton on there.
All right.
I would make that case.
I'd like to hear why you would make that case, Brian.
I thought he had a borderline breakout season in the back half of last year, and I think he is going to, in most games, out-touch Hawk. And if you put Hawk on there, you got to put JOJ on there.
Shelton, you got anybody shocking, or were you shocked to have this many? Because technically it is 9, but
No. Sorry,
I would say on the other side, like Lath being on there was kind of shocking to me as far as surprises being on there that I didn't expect.
Lath being on there was a little bit like what he done to be on there. I ain't gonna lie, I was looking like, didn't his spleen or something fall out last year? He didn't even play that much. Yeah, something was wrong with him. But I mean, no disrespect, but I just didn't. I don't know. I haven't seen what like the potential that for him to get on there. Now Elijah Fall being on there wasn't surprising to me, but it was like when you started to go back and really look at what he's done, he was like, dang, he really did have he was a bright spot. You know what I'm saying? Like when he came in, there wasn't a lot of talk about him, or I didn't talk a lot about him and think about him. I think Curtis may have put him on the breakout players and stuff like that. But when you go back and look at the season, he had a pretty solid season. So to see him on there, it's like, hey man, that's pretty good. We'd like to see him get, the next step in his development and have another good season. That'd be great.
Yep. And I mean, we're going to need it. I mean, we talked about Laws being nicked. I mean, it's good to see your number 1 and 2 D tackles on this list. We just got to hope that a couple guys behind them are going to be able to keep that train rolling when they've got to come off the field for a little bit. But yeah, having Fall in there, I think a lot of us figured Copeland, figured Reynolds, probably Keyshawn Brown.
For sure.
So these other guys, I think were people that we would probably, okay, they're on there. That makes sense, even if it wasn't somebody we necessarily would have thrown high up on our list.
I think it's this though. It's the Franklin effect though, because I think what happened is if there was another coach here, and this is more probably for, again, Ganam is the outlier. Like, by the way, it was 2024 when his spleen fell out. He played every game last year and started 10 of them. So his spleen fell out 2 years ago. Maybe he just has, Brian, get into the tape. But if you had told me it was another coach here, I don't think Marcellus Hawkins, I don't think Elijah Fall, and I don't think Caleb Spencer wind up on this list because they're second teamers. I don't think they wind up on this list without James Franklin. I mean, I think that's what it is. I think he probably went and said, because again, everybody knows Phil still like talks with everyone. If y'all can remember, was it 3 years ago? 2 or 3 years ago, we had that interview with Pry, and he was like 15 minutes late. And then literally the next day, Phil Steele's interview dropped off with him and it was like, oh, he was on the phone with Phil Steele still. And we didn't have that many players. So, yeah, it's the Franklin effect. All right, let's hit a couple things away from Hokie football. And I can't wait to hear, well, kind of everybody's take on this, but I want to start with the Brendan Sorsby case. Obviously, everything is now done. But what was just y'all's thought? Tally, what was just your thought as everything was coming down with all the allegations, all the shit that's come out with him? And
I didn't know how it was going to end, but I knew it wasn't going to end well for him. It's like you betting on your team, and then you start getting people coming out saying, oh, we might not play them or people shouldn't play them. I was like, I don't know what they're going to do, but it's not going to be good. And then next thing you know, it's like, oh, I'm out of here. But yeah, that's probably the best thing for you, my boy. Hopefully you bet good and made some good licks on them parlays because that NIL money is done for you, my boy. You done for the year.
No. He get to keep it. He got to keep it.
Yeah, they already paid him.
They already paid him. He's getting to keep
it. He made away like a bandit, literally.
That's an all-time finesse right there. And I mean that's another point of Texas Tech throwing around some stupid money right now. Good and ill. This is one of those situations where I'm kind of glad that other folks kind of stepped up because it didn't look like the legal system was going to take care of what it should take care of. And if you can't police whether a player can bet on their own team or not, then you have lost the ability to do any sort of oversight of your sport and the things that go on in it, full stop. It was kind of wild to me that, the legal system was trending the way it was. I'm glad that other folks put some pressure on the situation and, made it go the way that it did. It's going to be interesting. I know we're going to talk about that next, like some of the stuff that's coming down from a congressional perspective of kind of what the future of the sport's going to be. But, this was one of those things where for all the shit that I give the NCAA, I mean, the NCAA was trying to do the right thing and the courts were stepping in to supersede that. And I'm glad that, like I said, the outside pressure kind of eventually made them make the right choice and move on. Supplemental draft time for Sorsby. So
You didn't read the tweets today, did you? You didn't read their
No.
statement. Go ahead,
Oh,
tell
we
me.
don't.
You are.
Yep. So the NFL essentially said, "You are out of here." A very strongly worded letter from one of the NFL officials. I can't remember who it was. I'm pulling it up here. So they said that they will not hold a supplemental draft, which is typically reserved for players who were not eligible to compete in college. They will not hold a draft, so Sorsby will be ineligible to compete, or at least to get drafted for this year.
All right.
Yep. So he is not going to be going to that. I think the most interesting part was like he clearly did it. There was no admission of he didn't do it, right? And let me throw it up here because there was not a fan base that wasn't against Texas Tech. And they tried to stand on some dumb shit. Like, oh, well, he's getting treatment. Like, no, dude, he fucking bet on games. Like, he bet on his own team's games. Like, you can't do that. Like, you just can't. And they just, stood in there like, we're not going to come off this. And I'm still wondering what happened because it seemed like everything started changing when the Oklahoma AG, Attorney General Lewis, said, we're going to basically countersue you if you stay. And I got a feeling it was the rest of the Big 12 attorney generals basically saying, no, we'll rule them ineligible here. Fuck you. But, as soon as it come out, you just, you're done. So, it was one of those crazy scenarios that normally if we feel like we hear that, we kind of would stop and say, okay, you know what? Yeah, you can't play. Because if y'all can remember, I mean, especially Stan, he is going to play. Not could have did the smart thing. Who was it? Was it Tisdale a few years ago?
Yeah.
9 games. It was Tisdale, right?
Yeah.
He didn't even mean to do it. He got 9 games.
I think he got 6.
Yeah, it was
6?
It was 6. 6 for betting on NBA.
So if you were Texas Tech, could you at least get smart and say, okay, yeah, he bet on it. We're going to suspend him 6 games. And maybe nobody says anything. But they got stupid. So, all right. Last piece I want to talk about tonight before we wrap it up. And I don't know how close everybody's following this. I'm trying to follow it close. But the Protect College Sports Act that basically is now on Capitol Hill, on the floor, going through committees, being talked about. It's one of those things, if you get a chance to read Ross Dellinger's articles, read them, try to read them again, because it's some crazy stuff. But here's the one thing I know why this is probably a decent bill. Y'all want to know? This is how you know a bill's decent.
I know what you're going to say here.
Both sides in some way fucking hate it, which means this is probably good because if one side loves it and the other side hates it, it's steered one way. If one side loves the other side, it's the vice versa, the other ones. But when both of them hate elements of it, it's probably really good. Well, Sheldon, what do you have to say? Because obviously working in college athletics, basically pretty much all your professional career and even at the time you were in college, what's your thought of it and what you've read on it so far?
I mean, it's one heck of a bill, and you've obviously got a lot of different dynamics here, different conferences opposing it, some supporting it, and different politicians from either side of the aisle opposing it or supporting it for different reasons. So I think the big thing is obviously you've got the typical stuff, restrictions on eligibility, NIL, but the big thing is with regards to media rights for conferences. They had a provision there that allows schools to package their media rights together as a giant entity rather than having it be conference by conference. And they also have restrictions on adding schools to the Power Four to restrict conferences, hoarding schools from the lower levels and creating the super leagues. So that's the main reason that the SEC and the Big Ten oppose it, and that's created a different dynamic where typically you'll have all. I think with the SCORE Act, it was pretty much the schools were all together saying we need the SCORE Act. And then you had obviously the advocates for student athlete rights saying, no, we don't want that. Now it's a different dynamic where Instead, you've got different conferences that aren't exactly a big fan of that, primarily the SEC and the Big Ten, who do not want their ability to freely negotiate TV contracts to be interfered with. So I think that is an interesting development there. It seems to me like this bill has made some interesting bedfellows. I saw Steve Scalise, who's a Republican congressman, was actually advocating against having a cap on the NIL pay because he does not want, government instituted wage caps, which I thought was admirable and something I agree with. But there are a lot of Republicans who do not feel that way, and there are also Democrats who do feel that way. So I don't really know what to make of it. I will say it just seems it just seems so difficult to kind of get any sort of legislation passed when you've got so many different competing interest groups between the athletes, the politicians on both sides, the conference leaders. It's just kind of a mess right now. But I do think anything that we can do to limit the power of the SEC and the Big Ten is, generally speaking, a good thing. It's just that they happen to be the most powerful conferences, so you're going to have a very, very hard time doing that.
They also, unfortunately, have a lion's share of the votes in the Congress now as a result. Well,
you're talking about in Congress. I thought you meant with the schools.
No. Just because of how spread out they are, both of those conferences encompass a lot of different states. So obviously that increases their potential voting power on this thing, and their interest carry a little bit more weight. That being said, I think the one thing, we can go back to kind of the famous proverb, don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Yep.
I think we're at a point now where something needs to happen, because if it doesn't, we're going to continue down this path of not really knowing what you can and can't do. Every time there's some sort of issue that arises, you've got the potential of 30 or 40 different courts weighing in on something. This is not a sustainable model just from a legal standing, because every time something new comes up and there's like a slight nuance, it becomes a court battle. And
yep,
that whether that goes one way or the other depends on what court it's in or what state you're in. And you can't do that when you've got this, even the conferences are multi-state entities, and now you've got one state that's basically setting the precedent for this large group of teams. It creates all these different problems. If you can at least have some sort of federal backing on this thing, where you take out some of that interstate judiciary shuffling that we've got going on now, you wouldn't have a Sorsby situation that we just talked about. You wouldn't have some of these other things where like some kids from Vanderbilt trying to get some extra eligibility. There's just so many of these situations where you're having to litigate it state by state, and getting a framework in place that I think has enough good in it that most folks would be happy, unless you're, somebody that's a, big booster for the SEC maybe, or the Big Ten. But I think even outside of that, I think there's a lot to like about this, even if you don't necessarily like the financials for the Power 2 out there. I think that's really the only negative side that I've seen that creates some problems. I think caps, I can take or leave caps. I think caps could make some of the inequality in the sport go away in terms of what the overall funding for NIL would be. It wouldn't necessarily, I think a better, like a cap on individual player money isn't a great idea. I think an overall like team or conference cap would be something I'd be more in favor of. But there's some nuances there, but I think you get something passed, you can always reevaluate it in a few years versus just kicking the can down the road, which is what we've seen lately.
Callie, anything on this? I don't know how much you've read. I don't know how much you're looking into it, especially, I mean, you've got a son coming up that in a few years it very well could affect him.
I just want Nick Saban to shut up. That's all I want. I let Sheldon fill me in on all the bills and stuff. But Nick, stop talking about stuff, man. You were stockpiling backfields. You had Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, TJ Yeldon. I know I'm forgetting. The list goes on and on. 5-star,
Josh
5-star,
Jacobs.
5-star in the backfield. Now you want to come in and tell people what they need to do and what they don't need to do. Nick, go enjoy your retirement, my boy. Let some other people cheat, man. Let them cheat. As long as they ain't betting on their own team, like Sorsby's dumbass was doing, man, let them cheat. Let them get the people and give them new cars like he was giving them boys down there in Tuscaloosa.
Just give him enough money to go buy the new car.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Alabama was Hellcat University, man.
Hellcat University, $10,000 bags, $10,000 bags right at your car door as you came out from getting. It was some place down there. If you went to that place, you came out and there was a nice paper bag right under your door. Pick it up.
Hey, I'm all right. I'm okay with it. Just let us do it. Let us at least catch up and do it, man. I'm just trying to have a good year.
Here's the points I'm gonna make and why I think the bill in some way, shape, or form is going to come to fruition. A, the votes they need from the teams, as long as they can convince Notre Dame, it's going to pass. And then there's nothing the SEC or the Big Ten can do about it, because then it becomes basically national legislation and you got to follow it. But I don't think they're going to fight against it, because you talked about the boosters, Brian. The boosters need guardrails too, because eventually you go give $30 million every year to fund your team. After a decade, you $300 million less rich. And rich people like being rich. They don't like being poor. Even if it's only you're worth $500,000 and now you're worth $200 million, they don't like that. But what it does is, if you look at the bill, the SEC and the Big Ten are still going to be ahead media-wise. They just are. But what it's going to do is going to close the gap. And basically, what everybody's saying is, it's like, if you look at all these teams together, the amount of money the contracts would go out, because you would basically open up to anybody who wanted to broadcast college football and how much money they wanted to pay. That would open up the doors to Amazon. That would open up the doors to Netflix. That would open up doors to all of these other entities that are out here who want that stuff, because they know people will buy their product if they've got a good college football game on. But the other thing is, for the players, it guarantees a lot more stuff. The 5-year thing, which I think Phil threw up here, is now going to be the rule. That's good for players. No more red shirts. If you just look again, I go back to what I said just a few minutes ago. If everybody hates certain parts of the bills, but they don't hate the bill as a whole, it's probably a good bill. And that's probably why I think it'll eventually get pushed through, because I think some of these presidents and some of these ADs are saying, listen, we need guardrails. Like, we can't keep hemorrhaging this money, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger. If we don't put caps, we don't put guardrails on it, there's going to be some well-known team that's literally going to go broke.
Yeah.
And then people are going to bitch.
Yep. And Tally, you talked about Saban. I think one of the things that Saban hated about NIL is that Saban all of a sudden had to pay, $100,000 to a backup tackle or a backup guard every year, and he wasn't just throwing that one-time payment at a guy up front out the gate.
Yep.
And he did not like having to re-recruit his roster. He did not like having to pay guys that were deep on his roster that weren't out there, directly producing wins and stuff like that. He didn't like that. So, this is one of those things where, hey man, the way the game is now managed from a recruiting standpoint, from a roster management standpoint, has changed. I think there's a lot of things that can be cleaned up, but as far as paying the players, I mean, you're not putting that genie back in the bottle, buddy.
Facts.
All right. Anything else floating out there? All right. Well, let's wrap up episode of the Boundary Corner Podcast, brought to you by Moments on the Maury in Lexington. I'm Curtis Wilson.
Brian Siegler.
Jonathan Talley.
And I'm Shelton Moss.
Visit boundarycornerbt.com to listen to all of our episodes. While you're there, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel, along with all of your favorite podcast sources. We are on them all. As always, our buddy Jason Long down in the New River Valley plays us out every week. He's been all over this summer, down at the farmer's market, down at Grandin Village. Where was he the other week? He was somewhere like Crooked Shoreline, Daleville, down in Daleville. He's all over, playing all over this summer. Check out jasonlongmusic.com to see where he's playing live. Check out all of his stuff on Spotify, YouTube, and Facebook pages. We're going to try to get him to share his maybe gambling bets again. He is on a heater right now. And I mean a heater, like literally. And when he starts losing, he's going to curse me so much because I mentioned it. He has been nailing World Cup picks, nailing them for like the last 2 weeks. So I hope it keeps going good, Jason. We appreciate y'all out there for listening. And as always, let's go.
Hokies.
Hokies.